2 inches live a second life. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan let out a soft sigh. He had never been worried about his age, not only because he was still at the age where his blood energy was at its strongest. In the face of death, what he faced the most was the danger of dying in battle. The erosion of time was too far away for him. Perhaps, he would only have that kind of feeling when he reached the end of time. The fear of time, the panic of time, were fully displayed at this time. Even if it was someone who shocked an entire era, they still couldn't escape the obliteration of time. If they wanted to struggle free, they could only advance towards a higher level. Be careful, these guys failed to break through. They must have a great amount of resentment. Don't let it corrode their minds. Shen Shuihui withdrew the smile on his face and became serious. The force behind him was extremely huge. He naturally knew how powerful these old fellows were when they were still alive. If it wasn't for the fact that Lei Yuye's lightning rain had cleansed too much of the yin qi, even he wouldn't dare to step foot on this land. Woo! As soon as his voice faded, a low roar that sounded like that of a savage beast was heard. It carried a strong bloodthirsty intent. In the next moment, a black shadow tore through the sky and flew towards Shen Shuihui. It's here. Shen Suyu's expression was still calm. It seemed that he had already known about this. He waved his sleeve and 5 dark gold origin chi pillars shot out like chains. They penetrated through space and struck the black figure in an instant. The latter cried out in pain and flew backwards. Xiao Yan looked over. It was a person. His eyes were filled with blood. It was as though there was an endless amount of resentment as he stared intently at them, causing Xiao Yan's hair to involuntarily stand on end. This is a man whose mind has been corroded by the resentment. He can't feel pain at all. Unless you can kill him in one strike, what awaits you is endless entanglement. Shen Shuihui laughed loudly. He took a step forward, and his entire body was bathed in a dark golden light. He threw out a punch, and his chi rushed towards the mountains and rivers, as if it was going to overturn the heavens and earth. With a buzzing sound, it directly pierced through the chest of the attacker. Dong! The man in black, whose mind had already been eroded, lost all signs of life. He landed on the ground, and his chest exploded. A bowl-sized bloody hole appeared on his chest. The hole was extremely smooth, and not a single drop of blood flowed out. His technique is so efficient. This man is at least an Emperor cultivation-level warrior. Even though his mind has been eroded, he still couldn't withstand a single punch. The Xiaoao's exclamation resounded in Xiao Yan's mind. Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes, secretly assessing Shen Suyu's true strength. He had no idea what this mysterious man's background was. There might be more of these people in the mountain. If they swarm over, few people will be able to escape unscathed. Once we enter, I will attract most of the people outside. You can enter the heart of the mountain and try your best to retrieve the broken sword. After finishing off the offender, Shen Suyu's expression remained the same. He turned his head and looked at Xiao Yan. He stared into Xiao Yan's eyes and grinned. Don't worry about that broken sword. After so many years, it's impossible to restore its true power without a special method. Therefore, it won't be of much use to you. As for the remaining saint skills, you can take them as you wish. Of course, if you're lucky, you might be able to get a few scrolls. Shen Shuihui shrugged and said softly. Let's go in and take a look. Xiao Yan grinned and a strange light flashed in his eyes. Most of the mountains were connected to the ground. There were also flames that surged out from the core of the mountain. It would be great if he could encounter such flames in the heart of the mountain. Don't worry, just do as I say. The 3 of us will be able to return with a bountiful harvest. Shen Shuihui smiled when he saw this. He appeared to be quite satisfied. As he spoke, he had already rushed to the highest point of the mountain. Within a couple of breaths, he had arrived at the peak of this mountain. Xiao Yan gently landed on the ground. At a glance, he saw a huge crack in the middle of the mountain. It was as if it had been torn apart by lightning. It seemed to have pierced through the entire mountain. When he looked down, he could not see the bottom of the crack. No one knew where it led to. What exactly is going to happen to this thunderstorm night in Heaven Divine Mountain? The Xiaoao scratched its head. The history of the Heaven Divine Mountain was too heavy and grand. The experts buried there were enough to take up more than half of the history of the great world. How could the legendary Lei Yuye bring them back to life? The Heaven Divine Mountain is a true divine mountain. In the Mingan Divine Domain, Shi Mogu is here. There are countless mysteries hidden within. The so-called Lei Yuya is the same. The lightning has the power to reach the heavens. Shen Shuihui paused for a moment, as if he was muttering to himself. The words that came out of his mouth made the Xiao Ao even more confused. Be careful when you go down. I don't know how many people have died down there. After reminding the two of them, Shen Shuihui leapt and entered the crack, instantly disappearing from sight. Buzz. Golden light surged from Xiao Yan's body. The crimson gold flame flashed across his eyes, but he still could not see the end of the crack. He softly sighed and nodded at the Xiao Ao. The two of them threw themselves into the crack. One gold and one purple light beam instantly drowned out the darkness. How many people have come to Heaven Divine Mountain this time? In the small town where Xiao Yan had passed by, there was still a strong wind blowing. There were many soldiers guarding the town, and there was a murderous aura coming from it. It was in a place that couldn't be seen. There were also countless experts standing guard. As the experts that had been nurtured by the Deacon sect for tens of millions of years, their strength was enough to deter anyone who harbored ill intentions. On a stargazing platform in the center of the town that was engraved with yin and yang, a middle-aged man wearing a dark python robe stood with his hands clasped together. The middle-aged man had a calm and dignified look in his eyes. He gazed into the distance at the majestic and endless Heaven Divine Mountain, and his voice was as loud as a great bell. Below the stargazing platform, an old man, who looked like he was about to die, tremblingly arched his withered hand that was like an old tree bark. He said in a vague and unclear voice, a total of 20,000 people. 20,000 people. Compared to the last 100 years, it's a bit less. I think the rest of the people came from the heavenly abode into the mountains. This bunch of old things can also use this opportunity to arrange quite a few of their own people. The middle-aged man grunted coldly when he heard this, and the 5 fingers in his sleeve slowly tightened while his eyes revealed a faintly discernible coldness. Did you tell her? This is our last chance. No matter what, we have to kill Ling Longzi. With a cold humph, the middle-aged man spoke once again. His tone carried a trace of suppressed madness. I have already warned her many times. I believe that the beloved daughter of the Lord will win the final victory for our race. The old man parted his mouth that didn't have many teeth, revealing a rather ugly smile. Ever since she became the saintess of Deacon sect, she is no longer my daughter. For the sake of the clan, even if she dies because of this, it will be her glory. The middle-aged man berated with a cold expression. The pressure that emanated from him caused the frail old man to almost fall to the ground. Tell her that the moment she becomes the saintess, her life will no longer belong to her. She must win this battle. The middle-aged man's voice echoed across half of the town. It was cold and emotionless. In the depths of the town, on a tall building, a woman in a white dress was silent. After a long time, only 2 lines of tears flowed down slowly. One boom. A strong gust of wind blew over, sending chills down everyone's spines. The huge mountain was actually hollowed out. What appeared in front of them was a cave that looked like a heavenly passage. How could it be like this? The Xiao Ao was startled. It raised its head and looked up. The reddish-brown rock was extremely heavy, and the air was scorching hot. Heat was rising from within its heart. Looking around, several rivers were flowing beneath its feet. Within these rivers were shockingly hot magma, and no one knew where it was flowing to. Looking at the scene in front of him, Xiao Yan was stunned. He had never thought that the mountain would be like this. It was like a small world, incomparably strange. Shen Suyu's eyes were piercingly cold. He swept his gaze across the surroundings, then he suddenly threw a punch towards a spot in the void. The punch of his fist whistled through the air, causing ripples to appear in the space, and then it returned to normal. This is the place, be careful of the magma. Before he finished his words, dozens of magma pillars suddenly rushed out from the flowing magma river below his feet. When the magma touched the rock above, it immediately stirred up a dazzling green smoke, and the rock melted instantly. They're here. Go and find the broken sword. Shen Suyu's pupils suddenly shrunk to the size of a pinhole. He let out a shrill cry, and his body moved like a ghost, passing through dozens of surging magma pillars in an instant. The dark golden origin chi around his body roared crazily, and it easily wiped away the magma that had touched his body. Roar! Roar! Quote. In the next moment, a deafening roar seemed to be transmitted from all directions. Dozens of black figures shot out from the magma pillars and rushed towards Shen Shuihui. These black figures had risked their lives to enter this place in order to obtain the remains of the ancient expert. Instead, their minds had been eroded and turned into humanoid weapons that guarded this place. Every single one of them was powerful and difficult to match. At the same moment that Shen Shuiwei moved, Xiao Yan and the Xiaoao also used their movement techniques. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared from where they were standing. The aura on their bodies was faintly discernible. A few human-shaped weapons with scarlet red eyes looked at the spot where Xiao Yan and the Xiaoao were standing in doubt. After which, they roared furiously and rushed towards Shen Shuiwei. So that's how it is. Among these people, there is no lack of alchemists with outstanding soul strength. Starlight flickered under their feet. Xiao Yan and the Xiaoao were quickly shuttling through the mountain. Soul strength surged out from between their eyebrows and covered most of the areas. However, what entered their minds was only a sea of red magma. The so-called broken sword that Shen Shuiwei mentioned had no trace of it. The temperature here is so high. Perhaps I can find the earth core flame. The Xiaoao licked his lips, unable to conceal the excitement in his heart. In his heart, whether it was the broken sword or the sacred skill that Shen Shuiwei spoke of, they were far from being able to compare to the recovery thousand leaves ancient monarch fire. Perhaps. Xiao Yan's heart jolted, and he unconsciously revealed a hint of a smile. His gaze swept across the mountain that was still unable to see the side of the mountain. The winding magma river was boiling, emitting a biting temperature. Even with the protection of the origin chi, he could still feel the burning sensation on his skin. All of a sudden, the surface of the magma below began to fluctuate. Magma pillars shot up into the sky and smashed towards Xiao Yan. A faint scorch mark appeared on the space along the way. Bang! Xiao Yan sensed it immediately. He struck out with his palm. A golden light surged out and shattered the magma pillar. In an instant, waves of heat rolled like a rainstorm. Swoosh! The Xiaoao's eyes were filled with a purple golden light. Its body suddenly dove down. The source energy turned into a huge hand that reached into the magma, creating a huge wave. A huge red lizard was captured by the Xiaoao. Hiss! The red lizard was agile. Its body moved and it broke away from the huge hand of the Xiaoao. With a leap, it had already jumped onto a huge rock far away. Its blood-red eyes seemed to be bleeding. Its entire body was emitting a foul smell as it stared at Xiao Yan and the other man. There really is everything here. I wonder how long this fellow has been in there. To think that he would be able to live under the magma. Xiao Yan looked at the red giant lizard with surprise. He couldn't help but exclaim. He was extremely afraid of the temperature of the magma. Be careful not to touch its skin. There is a fire poison that can corrode the origin chi. Retracting his hand, the Xiaoao frowned. The moment he grabbed the giant lizard, he could clearly sense that the origin chi had disappeared in a frenzy. Then use poison to fight poison. Xiao Yan laughed loudly and clenched his fists tightly. Two flames quickly surged into his fists. At the same time, a blue flame that was almost bewitching covered the former's body like flowing water. The heat on his body was quickly reduced. Boom! Like a meteor crashing down, Xiao Yan's figure explosively arrived. His fist was like a dragon as it violently smashed towards the giant lizard's head. A powerful wind rumbled and even shattered the rock beneath the giant lizard. Xiao Yan's attack was swift and violent like thunder as it directly sent the red lizard flying. The latter cried out in grief as it fell into the magma river, causing magma that was several feet high to rise. His bones are quite hard. His 5 fingers hurt slightly. Xiao Yan grinned and looked at the magma where the red lizard fell. He snorted coldly. Without hesitation, he stepped into the magma. With refining monarch Hai Tianyan's protection, he didn't need to worry about the burning of the magma. He's getting stronger and stronger. I think this guy will really fulfill Yi Tianxin's long-cherished wish. Upon seeing this scene, the Xiaoao laughed happily. He had witnessed the hardships that Xiao Yan had gone through along the way. He had seen how difficult it was for the latter to attain his current strength. Hong! Xiao Yan's body suddenly rushed out from the magma after this thought sounded. The blue flame on his body shook. In an instant, it incinerated the red magma that had touched it. With a flash, he arrived beside the Xiaoao. It seems like I have poked a hornet's nest. Before the Xiaoao could open its mouth, Xiao Yan let out a bitter laugh. He pulled the Xiaoao and rushed forward. In the next moment, the magma rivers below seemed to have completely boiled. Countless amounts of magma splashed out. Countless red lizards rushed out from within. Their deafening muffled roars were deafening as they chased after the two of them. Is the true form of this ancient expert a lizard? How can there be so many of them? The Xiaoao looked behind with its mouth agape. The dense red lizards filled every corner of its field of vision like locusts, as if they were going to devour the two of them. Running like this isn't a solution. I have to think of a way to repel them. Gritting his teeth, the Xiaoao urgently said. If they encountered any resistance in front of them, there would be wolves and tigers in front of them. It would be difficult for them to escape. Don't worry, I now know what Shen Shui means. Xiao Yan smiled helplessly. Boundless soul force surged out from between his brows, continuously scanning the group of lizards behind him. This kind of group of creatures definitely had a king commanding them. Only by finding and defeating them would the pile of ferocious beasts disperse. Found it. Suddenly, Xiao Yan's brows furrowed, and he said with a grin, Shen Suyu's meaning is right here. Their injuries aren't that high. The only troublesome thing is the fire poison on their bodies. With the situation skill, it's enough to kill them. Before he finished speaking, Xiao Yan had already let out a long roar. His body was covered in golden light and blue flames. Like a god that had descended, he stabbed into the endless group of lizards like a sharp blade that could cut through everything. He pointed at a black lizard in the middle. The black lizard had a dragon head and a lizard body. Clearly, it had reached an even more terrifying realm. Zero Weng. A golden light burst out from Xiao Yan's body, and a terrifying pressure blasted all the red lizards around him away. His punch was so powerful that it seemed like it was going to hit the black lizard in front of him. The lizard with the dragon head was obviously the king of the ferocious beast. It remained unmoved even when faced with Xiao Yan's punch that could shake mountains and rivers. Its cold eyes were like ice that would never melt for 10,000 years, not moving at all. Hiss! Hiss! When the other red lizards saw Xiao Yan charging forward, they seemed to have been stimulated. Their sharp voices were so loud that it hurt their eardrums. They rushed forward without caring about anything and used their bodies to erect a barrier for their king. Boom! With a punch, the cave was filled with the sound of vibration. Red blood splashed in front of their eyes. They had killed countless red lizards. In the next moment, Xiao Yan felt the temperature around him rise. Countless red lizards rushed towards him and drowned him in an instant. Not good. The Xiaoao in the distance focused his eyes. Immediately, his body moved. He placed his hands together and a purple origin chi rose. He had already arrived above the group of lizards. His fist suddenly smashed downwards. Accompanied by the wild and violent roar of the origin chi, it seemed as though the mountain was being split apart and the earth was being split apart. In an instant, countless red lizards were scattered. Wails continuously sounded, causing one's scalp to feel numb. Creak, creak. Even though many red lizards had been defeated, there were still quite a number of lizards that formed a cluster and firmly trapped Xiao Yan within it. A heavy sound that sounded like bone cracking was transmitted over. The Xiaoao was startled. Immediately, it felt like its eyes were about to split apart. With a furious roar, majestic and vast purple origin chis violently surged out from the top of its head. As they rose, they seemed to have transformed into a huge dragon. The Xiaoao's eyes were scarlet red. The huge purple dragon recklessly shuttled through the sky. A frightening aura that caused people to tremble came from above. For a moment, it caused the numerous red lizards to not dare to move. A strange expression flashed across the eyes of the black lizard. When it looked at the giant purple dragon above the Xiaoao's head, it immediately became excited. It raised its head to the sky and let out a cry. In an instant, all the red lizards seemed to have received some kind of stimulation as they crazily attacked the Xiaoao. Each and every one of them looked like they were not afraid of death. True Dragon. The black lizard stood in midair and spoke in human language. It muttered softly and raised its head to look at the Xiaoao that was trapped by the numerous red lizards. It actually grinned like a human. You overestimate yourself. How dare you try to pry into the treasures here? It muttered to itself. The black dragon Salamander turned to look in another direction. There, numerous red lizards were surrounding Xiao Yan like a sphere, trapping him within. The sound of bones cracking could be clearly heard. Once I devour him and transform into a true dragon, I will be able to escape from this state and obtain the broken sword. This place will no longer be able to trap me. He raised his head and looked at the rock above him. A crazy light flashed in the black dragon salamander's eyes. He had been suppressed here for countless years. Today, he finally saw the hope of getting out. You think I'm the gatekeeper? Old thing, you deserve to die. The black dragon salamander's entire body trembled slightly. He recalled the night of the thunderstorm. The master of this mountain wanted to use this chance to be reborn, but he was turned into ashes by the purple lightning, completely annihilated. That time, he saw it clearly at the bottom of the magma pool. Hiss! At the thought of this, the black dragon salamander suddenly raised its head. A strange red light flashed in its eyes, emitting a piercing buzzing sound. All the red lizards seemed to have received a signal, and they crazily attacked the Xiao Ao. The latter's body was covered with purple origin cheese, and his combat intent had reached its peak. Every punch that was thrown out would cause a large amount of blood to splash out. These magma lizards at the peak of Monarch Emperor level were unable to cause any harm to him. The number of magma lizards increased, and they didn't fear death. Under the control of the black dragon salamander, every one of them seemed to have gone mad. Their strength became even stronger, and the fire poison on their skin became harder to eliminate. In just a moment, more than half of the purple Xiao Aos on the Xiao Ao's body had been corroded. This is really troublesome. The Xiao Ao clenched its teeth and punched out once again. A red lizard immediately turned into blood and scattered. In the next moment, several red lizards filled up the empty space. There was an endless stream of them, as if there was no end to them. Why hasn't Xiao Yan come out yet? Just as he was distracted, a fire poison was spat out. It nearly corroded his origin cheese protective barrier. The Xiao Ao's heart trembled. He hurriedly held his breath and focused his mind. He began to deal with the situation in front of him. He did not believe that Xiao Yan would be trapped by these magma lizards. With the accumulation of this fire poison, even a monarch cultivation expert will die. Those people outside are not arrogant people. Seemingly having full confidence, the black dragon salamander shook its head. The white sharp teeth that were revealed flashed with a frightening ferociousness. Hiss hiss. The Xiao Ao's hair danced in the air. The huge purple dragon behind it circled around, blocking the attacks of countless magma lizards. The surging True Dragon aura made the black dragon salamander's heart palpitate. Ka! Seeing the faint tired expression on the Xiao Ao's face, the black dragon salamander could no longer hold itself back. It rushed out from under the protection of countless magma lizards. Its dragon head was gently raised and a cluster of black light had already gathered at the corner of its mouth, ready to spurt out. Boom! Suddenly, a shocking explosion sounded. Countless number of magma lizards' broken limbs scattered with a loud bang. Before the black dragon salamander could react, a sharp fist wind suddenly struck out and violently smashed onto the lower jaw of the latter. The force was so great that it instantly sent the latter flying. Kai! Xiao Yan's eyes were cold and indifferent. The blue flames around his body spread like water. There seemed to be a vertical eye between his eyebrows. He was pretending to be trapped, waiting for this opportunity. The black dragon salamander running out by itself was the best opportunity to get rid of it. Without any hesitation, the starlight underneath his feet flickered. Xiao Yan stepped into the sky, and as if he was going to shatter the void, the solitary heaven fist once again struck the neck of the black dragon salamander with a force that could shake the heavens. Hiss! The black dragon salamander fell like a meteorite. Its eyes were filled with hatred. Just as it was about to control the countless magma lizards, the space behind it suddenly split open in a strange manner. Xiao Yan took a big step forward and pressed down with his 5 fingers. In an instant, his 2 fingers merged together. The 3-colored flame on his fingers circulated and struck the black dragon salamander's throat with lightning speed. Oh! The black dragon salamander opened its mouth, but no sound was emitted from it. A heart-wrenching pain was transmitted from its throat. A cold wind swept past, and hot blood gurgled out. Clearly, it had been penetrated. Let's see how you are going to control them now. He retracted both of his fingers. Xiao Yan smiled. He had been trapped for so long just to observe how the black dragon salamander controlled the countless magma lizards. In the nick of time, he had used the spatial teleportation ability of the realm traversal jade to seal his throat. In the next moment, the faint buzzing sound in this spatial zone suddenly disappeared. Very quickly, the countless magma lizards that had gathered together scattered. Their eyes were filled with confusion. They looked at Xiao Yan and the Xiao Ao before they all fell into the magma river below like a swarm of bees. Soon, they disappeared without a trace. Woo! Woo! The Black Dragon Salamander man stood up and panted heavily. His eyes were filled with endless hatred as he looked at Xiao Yan. Phew! It's finally settled. The Xiao Ao came to Xiao Yan's side. There was an unconcealable tiredness on his face. Just now, he had killed at least 100 magma lizards. Although they didn't cause much damage to him, the massive consumption of his origin energy had exhausted him. Bring us to the treasures here. Grasping the dragon horn protruding from Black Dragon Salamander's head, he completely grasped the latter in his hand. Xiao Yan grinned and said rudely, 2 inches cough cough. The dragon horn was firmly held in Xiao Yan's hand. The Black Dragon Salamander was simply unable to break free. A cold wind blew past his throat, and it had already solidified his blood. He opened his mouth, but was unable to speak. There's no need for you to speak nonsense. Lead the way. Xiao Yan laughed coldly. He suddenly pushed the Black Dragon Salamander away. A powerful force was unleashed, causing the latter to violently slam into a rock in the distance. He involuntarily cried out in pain. Crack! The Black Dragon Salamander immediately unleashed its body while it was far away from Xiao Yan. It was about to leap into the magma river and escape. The Xiao Ao, who had been watching coldly from the side, had already seen through the latter's intention. The purple-colored origin chi whistled and a large hand was suddenly extended. It trapped the latter within it. It must be very uncomfortable. Without the support of the fire poison from many of your subordinates, your strength is merely so-so. Xiao Yan gently smiled. He landed on the ground and arrived in front of the Black Dragon Salamander. Without waiting for the latter to speak, he threw a punch forward and ruthlessly smashed onto the Black Dragon Salamander's abdomen. In an instant, there seemed to be lava flowing on his dark black skin. It was just like ripples on water and was extremely frightening. As expected, the fire poison on your body is several times stronger than the other lizards. Seeing the blue flames on his fist buzzing, a trace of astonishment flashed across Xiao Yan's face. Immediately after, he said in a soft voice, the fire poison that could make refining monarch Hai Tianyan's expression change had already reached a terrifying level. The black fire poison flowing on his skin caused the Black Dragon Salamander to not feel much pain. It looked at the blue flame flowing around Xiao Yan's body and a trace of surprise flashed across its eyes. It clenched its teeth and an extremely obscure voice suddenly sounded in the air. This is Monarch Flame? The voice suddenly startled Xiao Yan. He looked at the Black Dragon Salamander in front of him and said with a smile, it can still be said. That's good, that's right. It's a Monarch Flame. What do you think? Who are you? You have the Monarch Flame, and yet you're coveting the things here? The Black Dragon Salamander gradually calmed down, and a trace of fear appeared in its eyes. What a load of crap. I don't have that much patience. Xiao Yan let out a cold snort. He glanced at the flowing magma river below and grinned. Let me ask you, what is underneath the magma? The space here was extremely spacious. After thinking for a while, Xiao Yan had no choice but to look at the bottom of the magma river. The place where the dead sleep. After a long silence, the obscure voice of the Black Dragon Salamander sounded once again. Bring us down. Also, don't think about gathering a bunch of lizards to deal with us. Even if it's in the magma, the two of us can kill you with a single thought. Xiao Yan raised his eyelids and waved his hand. The origin chi on the Xiao Ao's body shook. The purple origin chi's large hand let go of the Black Dragon Salamander. The latter's strength was at most at the Emperor cultivation level. The most powerful fire poison did not cause much harm to Xiao Yan. All right, follow me. A struggle flashed across the Black Dragon Salamander's eyes when he saw this. An obscure voice sounded, after which, he turned around and jumped into the magma river behind him. Be careful. The Xiao Ao was startled when he saw the unusual reaction of the Black Dragon Salamander. He hurriedly whispered, I know. Nodding his head, Xiao Yan did not relax either. He was highly concentrated. Blue flames surged like flowing water as he grabbed the Xiao Ao's hand. They wrapped around the both of them before leaping into the magma. The magma river rolled up blazing ripples and gradually became dull. A moment later, a whistling sound suddenly appeared in the underground world, which had returned to its calm state. The origin chi scattered and revealed Shen Suyu's appearance. There are signs of a fight. Those magma lizards really came out. Shen Suyu's sharp eyes swept across the place and found the broken limbs and bodies below. He pondered for a moment and looked around in confusion. He had expended a lot of energy in order to escape from the siege of the people whose minds had been eroded. If he were to be attacked by the countless magma lizards again, he was afraid that he would have no choice but to flee in a sorry state. I hope that kid has gained something. He has the tactics of the state. Even if he is attacked, those weak lizards won't do much damage to him. After muttering to himself, Shen Shui sat cross-legged and looked at the flowing magma river. No one knew what he was thinking. Buzz. Buzz. In front of them was a confused crimson red. The boiling hot magma seemed to want to incinerate everything as it surged over. If it wasn't for the protection of the monarch flame, even a monarch cultivation expert would have died within it. Xiao Yan and the Xiao Ao followed closely behind the black dragon Salamander. The latter seemed to have entered a desolate place within the magma river. Its speed was so fast that it was shocking. It has been diving for so long. Why hasn't it reached the bottom yet? This can't be the heart of the heavenly God Mountain, right? The Xiao Ao licked its lips and looked at the dark red magma that flowed past it. It couldn't help but feel a little surprised. The color of the magma here was even darker, and it even felt a little sticky. Upon closer inspection, there was actually a burning flame, which was extremely strange. Xiao Yan pursed his lips. They had been following the black dragon Salamander for nearly an hour, but they still couldn't see the end of it. What was the name of this magma river? I would like to see what tricks this old thing can pull. Xiao Yan sneered. His heart was exceptionally calm. As he was in refining Monarch Hai Tianyan's body, the air was constantly being emitted and he could breathe freely. Naturally, there was nothing to worry about. We're here. While the two of them were conversing in their hearts, the black dragon Salamander, which had been silent for a long time, suddenly stopped. It stood in a vast world of magma. Under the astonished gazes of Xiao Yan and Xiao Yan, the black dragon Salamander leapt and disappeared. It was as if it had jumped out of this world. So that's how it is. What a great move! Xiao Yan could not help but grin when he saw this. He and the Xiao Ao stepped forward at the same time. Within the surging magma in front of them, there was indeed an unusual aura. This familiar feeling was undoubtedly a formation. Buzz. When they touched it, a faint red light flashed and disappeared. Xiao Yan and the Xiao Ao also disappeared in an instant. What appeared in front of them was an endless red soil. Other than that, there was nothing else. All sounds seemed to have completely disappeared in this place. It was strangely quiet. When they raised their heads, they saw an even more scarlet red sky. It was like a lake that continuously surged, as if it was going to pour down at any time. I have guarded this place for who knows how many years. What right do the two of you have to come and retrieve the damaged sword? Suddenly, the black dragon Salamander in front of him turned around. Its cold eyes looked at the Xiao Yan duo. The panic on its face had turned into a sneer. As its voice faded, its huge foot stomped on the ground. Along with a rumbling sound, a crimson-colored mountain peak in the distance suddenly rose. As the rocks flew, they transformed into a stone golem that was several tens of thousands of feet tall. Its eyes were like two enormous suns, and magma surged within them. He walked towards Xiao Yan and the other man step by step, and with every step he took. Hong Long, do you think that without them, I won't be able to do anything? I can control every single mountain here. The resentful voice resounded. The black dragon Salamander's submissive behavior was no longer there. Black flames rose from its back. The ferocious dragon bone broke out of its body, and the lizard's body underwent a tremendous transformation. It soared into the sky like a dragon's body, and a monstrous and ferocious flame filled the sky. A murderous aura filled the air. In this place, I am a true dragon. I'll show you what a true dragon is. The Xiao Ao let out a cold laugh and let out a long roar toward the sky. The purple golden origin chi coiled around it and transformed into a purple beam that shot into the sky. It seemed to have penetrated through the space and attracted endless lightning and thunder. As the lightning and thunder faded away, a purple gold dragon soared in the sky. Its dragon chi was monstrous, and it looked down upon the world. Its vast and mighty aura covered the sky and covered the earth, as if it was the ruler of the world. One in the sky, there was a huge black dragon with a ferocious appearance. It was bathed in black lightning and emitted a frightening and sharp aura. It looked like an evil dragon that had ascended from the 9 underworlds. Lava surged within its huge blood-red eyes and a rumbling sound resounded across the sky. In front of the huge black dragon was an even larger purple gold dragon. Every scale on the latter's body seemed to be emitting a dazzling luster. A sacred and inviolable aura arose spontaneously. It was vast and mighty like the ocean, and it was filled with righteousness. Its dragon tail swayed and stirred the void, causing one to feel a sense of reverence when looking at it. The huge dragon that was transformed from the black dragon Salamander roared furiously. Facing the Xiao that had also transformed into a dragon, it actually couldn't muster up any fighting spirit. The suppression of this aura had caused it to suffer a crushing defeat. The Xiao hovered in the void, its eyes cold and indifferent. This was its true form. When Xiao Yan had advanced to the Emperor cultivation, he knew many things about the past. Some ultimate skills that were hidden deep within its bloodline could be easily displayed. The confrontation in the sky was extremely oppressive. Xiao Yan let out a bright smile and looked at the red rock man who was striding towards him. The rock man was over 3,000 meters tall, and it was emitting a monstrous aura. In front of it, Xiao Yan was like an ant. Boom! Xiao Yan's expression suddenly became serious. His feet stomped on the ground. He had already shot out like a cannonball, flying straight up into the air. The vast and mighty boundless origin chi surged, instantly enveloping his entire body. Like a golden sharp blade, it tore through the air. Xiao Yan was in the middle of it, his eyes cold. He punched out with his right fist, and it seemed as if it could tear apart the heavens and the earth as it swept out with a loud bang. In the next moment, he struck out with his fist. It hit the huge chest of the stone man without any fancy moves. Crack! The ear-splitting sound of crushed stones was suddenly heard. The stone man could not help but pause in his steps. The countless boulders in front of his chest had already been shattered. Rocks flew everywhere and flew in all directions. With a flash, he easily dodged the punch of the stone man. Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows as he looked at the slow enemy. A trace of hesitation flashed across his heart. Although this big guy's attack was fierce, his movement was incomparably slow. He was simply unable to keep up with Xiao Yan. What was the use of using the black dragon Salamander to control this? The blood-red eyes swept across Xiao Yan who was in the distance. The black dragon let out a low hiss. Suddenly, a black light shot out from the dragon's body. Countless black dragon scales shot out like sharp blades, cutting across the space. They attacked the Xiao and Xiao Yan at the same time in a strange manner. The black scales seemed to contain a deadly poison. A faint black smoke was emitted from the space they passed. A pungent smell of sulfur instantly filled the air. Insignificant skill. Sharp spiritual strength spread across the entire place. Xiao Yan gently raised his eyebrows. His body flashed and his 10 fingers moved. In an instant, countless thumb-sized fire lotuses flew out. The exquisite red-colored fire lotuses that looked like jade carvings seemed to have eyes. They accurately blocked in front of every black scale. After which, they turned into a small cluster of flame and wrapped around it. The Xiao let out a soft cry. The dragon's voice was vast and mighty. Every single purple gold scale on the dragon's body erupted with a dazzling brilliance, piercing through every single black scale. In an instant, the void bloomed with a dazzling brilliance. Kai! Xiao Yan's voice was soft. He flipped his 10 fingers and countless sparks exploded. The sky was filled with a dazzling rain of fire. Boom! In the next moment, all of the black dragon scales suddenly turned into flowing magma under the mocking smile of the black dragon Salamander. It whistled and surged towards Xiao Yan. The shattered rocks that fell from the stone people also seemed to have a life of their own. They swept over and strangely turned into a magma waterfall that instantly wrapped around Xiao Yan. Crack, crack! The rock golem, who was moving extremely slowly, had the nourishment of the magma. Its movement was as fast as lightning. A rock fist that was even larger than Xiao Yan's smashed down. It carried a surging magma flow as it violently smashed onto Xiao Yan, who had yet to react, only to hear a bone-cracking sound being emitted. The rock golem flew back powerlessly like a kite with a broken string. Golden blood spread across the sky. What a pleasant sound! This fist can kill monarch cultivation warriors. What an arrogant guy! Seeing this, the black dragon Salamander's gloomy voice sounded out from the void. Its eyes were filled with incomparable fanaticism and joy as it looked at the Xiao. Next, it will be you. In the distance, the stone man sent Xiao Yan flying with a punch. The wind from the punch roared, flattening the mountain peaks in the distance. The air was squeezed so hard that cracking sounds could be heard. The Xiaoao dragon's eyes were still as cold as before. It looked at the place where Xiao Yan landed, but it didn't seem to be worried at all. It sneered and said, "This guy is always so careless sometimes, but..." After saying that, the Xiaoao's huge dragon body trembled. A purple golden light lingered around it, and it once again transformed into a human form. "You will infuriate him if you do that. In that case, there will be nothing left for me to do." The Xiaoao grinned, and a strange light flickered in its eyes. Crazy words. The black dragon salamander laughed coldly. Its dragon tail swung and the air trembled. Its icy cold eyes looked at the Xiaoao. It was filled with greed. The extremely pure and mighty dragon aura within the latter's body was what it coveted the most. "You can try." A cold voice suddenly sounded behind him after his words sounded. It was like an unmelting ice. The killing intent contained within it caused the air to freeze. Boom! Before the black dragon salamander could react, a wild and violent wind had already blasted out. In the next moment, it was as if it had suffered a heavy blow. The former cried out in pain. The dragon bones on his back seemed to have been broken one by one as he fell in a miserable manner. "I would like to see whether you are a dragon or a worm." Xiao Yan's expression was cold. His hair was in a mess and his clothes were in tatters. His left chest was slightly caved in and a hand powerlessly fell down. The origin chi on it buzzed and circulated. The situation circulated and quickly healed his injuries. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Yan threw his head back and let out a long roar. Vast and mighty origin chi was unleashed from every pore on his body, as if he had transformed into a dragon. In the next moment, a terrifying aura that could pierce through the void spontaneously emerged. "Azure Dragon Arts, Azure Dragon Slaying Firmament." His voice resounded. Xiao Yan was like an azure dragon, tearing through the void and striking down at the black dragon salamander below. The power of the third style of the Azure Dragon Arts had already surpassed the Monarch Arts. It was naturally incomparably powerful and overbearing. Ka! The black dragon salamander's eye sockets were about to split open, and its mouth was wide open. Black flames were burning crazily on its huge dragon body, as if it was using some kind of secret technique. All of a sudden, the stone man seemed to have crossed the space and appeared above the black dragon salamander, and a mountain-like giant fist was thrown at Xiao Yan. The Xiaoao's eyes focused. It nervously looked at the center of the battle. Currently, Xiao Yan had no strength left in his hand. He could only use half of his strength. Even if he used the strongest third style of the Azure Dragon Arts, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to gain any advantage. As he thought of this, the Xiaoao's expression became serious. He was ready to launch a fierce attack. Heavenly Monarch Fire Burning Body. The appearance of the stone man suddenly appeared in front of him. A trace of crimson gold flame flashed in Xiao Yan's eyes, and he was filled with killing intent. He muttered to himself, and the origin chi in his body started burning. He was urging the stone man to display his most powerful strength. Bang! The whistling sound seemed to have pierced through the heavens and earth. Xiao Yan's expression was cold as he clenched his right fist tightly. Accompanied by the sound that resounded across the sky, he appeared in front of the black dragon salamander. Behind him, the stone man stood like a mountain as he raised his huge fist high. There was a stone cave the size of a person on his chest. Rocks were sent flying and were completely shattered.